dismal. And it was that way when I was here as a student, and when I look at the numbers, they still haven't changed a whole lot. And I came here in the Stone Ages. So it's been several decades, and not a whole lot of progress is made. So a part of what I said, then I need to get this group of women, young women, exposed, but something they're familiar with, food, because we all can relate to that. So I said, how about, and I teach a supply chain class. And again, how many of you realize we've had some massive supply chain issues over the last few years? So I have enjoyed, even though it's been frustrating for me at the grocery store, just like it was a couple of weeks ago, because what I needed wasn't there. But I've just been intrigued because it's made my course I'm teaching kind of very high profile. So when I'm teaching some of the students, whether it's in face-to-face or online, we've got a lot to talk about. And so I said, why not look at supply chain, and why not look at something everybody knows, it's food. So we went all the way from basically farm to table with coming up with this week program, partnered with several folks you see on this little banner here. So this is, again, our Purdue Extension, which is in every county in the state, that helps with looking at 4-H and food and sustainability and what a household does to sustain itself with food. Tardy House is a local chef who lives in Anderson, who just moved up from Louisville, but he's done some Disney stuff and been pretty renowned in what he does, partnered with us, the Black Chamber of Commerce, the Madison County Chamber as well, Office Depot, Myers. Sisters of Royalty was one of our key partners. It's a mentoring program that's based out of Anderson for girls between late elementary all the way through high school, ourselves as well. Nestle, which is located, they have a facility in Anderson, as well as this here, which is our partnership we have with about a 32-acre farm in Greenfield, Indiana. And so it's called our IoT Smart Farm, and we're going to kind of move into this a little more today, so I'll make sure I don't run out of time with that also. But it's a partnership with 9 Star, which is in, I can't remember the county, but one of the cities is Greenfield, Indiana. They've got one of the largest levels of fiber anywhere in the state almost. So I'm sitting here very jealous being in a larger city, but they've got more access to the internet and a stronger signal than what I get in Anderson. Ourselves, as well as a couple of companies that are involved with some ag tech. That area is trying to be an ag tech kind of hub, because it's right off the 70 so leaving Indianapolis, going east like toward Ohio. It's one of those exits there that they're really trying to develop. They're doing a lot of developing in that area now, just with some restaurants and I think hotels too. So looking at that, I had no problem with partnerships. And then so we looked at, okay, what do we do to make this an experience? So we wanted to look at, have them understand what supply chain was at first, and then looking at how does that relate to STEM careers. And we talked about the number of careers all through that level of, again, possibly being an ag major up here, possibly looking at ag tech, so leveraging even mechanical engineering or electrical engineering or others into doing a lot of ag tech stuff. Because we know like drones are pretty active in the agriculture industry. Would you agree with that? Probably. How would drones make an impact to agriculture? Anybody got any ideas? What a drone is able to do is look over a field, fly over a field, and you can tell from, especially with the camera greatness now that it has and the amount of resolution they can pick up, it can let you know what areas of the field are dry and where you need to irrigate. So it's creating almost a lean way of farming, because the drone can say this is the area that we see differences in the leaves and other things, so there's something going on there. You need to investigate that area instead of a farmer just looking at it. So farming has got to be very technical than what it used to be. So we got them exposed to some of that. There was so the beginning of the week, we just spent some time in understanding what supply chain was, and then we ended up the week with them doing like a Food Network challenge. So anybody ever seen the Food Network challenge? Okay, so we had, teams of 4, and we had maybe 4 or 5 teams that had to look at the things we've talked about, find some of those food groups that we mentioned, because in Anderson we do have a lot of food manufacturing going on, or I should say Madison County. Nestle's one that does like the Boost, the Nestle drink mix, those kind of things. And then we have Red Gold in Madison County also they're one of the largest tomato producers of products, whether it's different tomato paste, tomato sauce, ketchup, etc. And we've got a few others in the area that do other types of food products that it made sense to do this project well, because we could use local resources for them to get exposed to. And then we looked at, so we ended up, again, doing a shopping experience as well, where they had to purchase the food with limited amount of funding, maximizing it, but make sure they could do somewhat of a meal around it. And then, so we had to understand budgeting, knowing how to look for the sizes of the foods and how many quantities it can make, those type of things they came up with as well. So ended up with a pretty good experience for them in the way of looking at the supply chain in general, then going to a field that's, again, 32 acres. We took a bus trip down to Greenfield. It's a little bit south of us, about 30 minutes south of us in Anderson, where they could spend time understanding some of the agriculture technology that's going on. This particular company has a device that you can scan a leaf, like a stalk of a corn stalk, and scan it, and it will tell you the nutrients in that leaf to say what type of composite of nutrients you may need to put in or you have too much of. So they got to get some exposure to that. At that time, they were growing pumpkins. Interesting time of the year we're talking about pumpkins. And they were able to get a pumpkin and take one home with them as well. Again, having that exposure, and then having a little bit of fun competition with it as well in that week. And then, like I said, all along the way, we were telling them about the vast number of STEM opportunities that they probably never thought about. Because a lot of times when they think of STEM, they think it's going to be in a factory, it's very industrial, not girly enough or whatever. And we're like, no, every area of STEM touches almost everything you're wearing. I let them know too, as females, they're probably the most innovative group, because every day we're thinking about which way we're going to wear our hair, how we're going to have this combination of clothes, which way we're going to design it. And we think about that all the time. They just don't equate it to innovation and creative thinking, which is critical to have. An engineer's got to be critical thinking, creative thinking, and having a spirit of innovation. And so once they kind of help them connect the dots, they're like, oh, okay, we kind of get it. So that's what I did last fall with the seed money I got. So then we ended up getting a pretty large grant from Lilly Foundation, and it moved into, this was, like I said, last fall. Then we moved into, let's see if I can remember where I put it. Sorry, my brain is all over the place here. Let me go back here, sorry. Okay, got to those. And this is just one of the articles. I don't know if it's going to come up or not. Let me see. I'm not going to worry about it. But anyways, there was a article we got written about with it from that summer. Very well received. It got picked up on some national things and got hits and kept getting resurfaced. So I kept getting a lot of inquiries about it. And then, like, how do I get my kids into this next time? So again, we move into getting another grant from Lilly. And now they're saying, can you expand this and look at it from another standpoint? So we did a similar thing, but again, made another food engineers camp this summer, expanded it to Muncie schools, didn't limit it to females this time, and again, they had a really interesting experience, along with the partners here. We also have Anderson Community Schools, which is D26, I forgot to mention. It's one of the career centers for our location. Every career center in Indiana has some kind of a letter designation to it. Ours is District 26. The beauty of that is they have a culinary department there, so we were able to use kind of an industrial-sized kitchen and really partner with the culinary director for the school system for the high school. and she was very instrumental in helping them understanding food safety, the whole areas of culinary, and again, technical careers in that as well that they could look at for engineers also. But it just shows the things we were doing that I highlighted earlier with that particular one as well. And then we're moving now into, let's see, we're working on it now, moving into next spring and summer. So this is what we're hitting on now. I'm working with another colleague who's a professor in EET, and we're looking at another partner in the city that has what's called the Lois Collier Growing Together Community Garden. And what we're going to do with this garden, kind of some of it here you can see. So, and it's a partnership they've got with Habitat for Humanity as well as Purdue Extension. What we're going to look at is how do we help this garden that's right in the heart of what I call the somewhat urban area of Anderson. It's not that big of a city, about 56,000 people. So very comparable to the city you guys have created here in West Lafayette, because it's about 60-some thousand students as well as faculty and staff, so it adds up to quite a few people. So you're larger than the city I'm in. But they were able to build these boxes in there, and it's a pretty long rectangle of a garden that we have. But the goal is, can we give an experience to students and take it to a higher level where they can help automate and bring in the Internet of Things into this garden? So my colleague right now, she is Dr. Rashmi Duodeshmuk, and she is now working with the class this semester on looking at, can we create an automated irrigation system? Because if you see here, this kind of white container here is where they keep the water to go into the boxes for the different types of herbs and vegetables they have. But again, how do we make this more sustainable, more efficient, and getting the best yield of vegetables and herbs that we can, taking it from this container of water to an irrigation system that will time when it should be irrigated, putting sensors into the boxes to notify the irrigation system when it should water. So that's what the group is in the process of doing now. Then we're going to look at how do we then make it into a project that a group of students could do in high school to add to that or learn from it. So that's what we're in the process of doing with this particular one, but they've got a lot of opportunity for growth with, I think they've got 9 of these big boxes they're using now, but there's ability, I think, to add, she said, 10 to 18 more. So we're looking at a pretty decent scale of automating it, and then we did a pitch to her with looking at, let's see, okay. Again, looking at this presentation we did at our recruiting event. So we presented this to the owner and the kind of the community owner of the garden, looking at, explaining what Internet of Things was, how we look at trying to collect data to help the garden be not only sustainable, but also having a higher yield, higher quality of vegetables for the city. I think they've netted, and this is their first year with it, I think they've netted over 500 pounds of vegetables and stuff for the community and neighbors as well. And then looking at, again, how we're going to bring these types of pieces to the puzzle with what the class is doing now that she's got, and then how we make this into a camp for high schoolers to do. And we're looking at some form of credentialing maybe through Purdue Extension, so they leave with some level of credentialing after working with us for a week or more as high school students. And again, another recruiting pitch we're doing also with this as well. But some of these things you see here is what we're going to try to incorporate into this community garden to help with that, and then see if we can scale